Three, two, one, let's go. Give way, groceries on the way, move. Give way, groceries on the way, move. Give way, groceries on the way, move.
Pleasant day to each and everyone. We are the Geek 3. Today we will discuss about the principle of cooperative conversation. Without a further ado, let's start. So, communication. Communication is guided by culture and context. It is predicted by the type of culture dictated by its context. Culture is manifested in our actions and affects how we tell the world who we are and what we tell believe in. It is also the basis for how we behave in a certain communication context. The context of communication brings a better understanding about culture in general and our own culture in particular. So, context was conceptualized by Edward T. Hall, a cultural anthropologist, as anything that refers to the stimuli, environment, or bias surrounding an event. Our notion of context leads us to be better able to adapt a multicultural perspective of communication. So your verbal communication is always accompanied by nonverbal cues such as gestures, facial expressions, and other body movements that add to you what you are saying in different ways. For example, American versus Japanese. So it is very normal for Americans to shake hands as a form of greetings, but not for a Japanese who bow when they greet each other. So communication is influenced by the culture and setting in which it takes place. The way we communicate is shaped by the culture we belong to the to and the specific circumstances we find ourselves in. Our culture is reflected in our actions and influence how we express our beliefs and identity to others. It is also play a role in how we interact in different communication situations. The context communication, as explained by cultural anthropologist Edward T. Hall, refers to the surrounding and environment in which communication occurs. Understanding the context of communication helps us gain insight into different cultures and our own cultural background. By understanding the context, we can better adapt to diverse communication styles and perspectives. So, verbal communication is when you talk and use words to communicate with someone, but it's not just about what you say. Nonverbal cues like gestures, facial expressions, and body movements also play a big part in how you communicate. For example, in America, it's common to shake hands when you meet someone as a way of saying hello, but in Japan, people people often bow instead of shaking hands when they greet each other. These nonverbal cues can vary from culture to culture and can add extra meaning to what you're saying. So it is important to pay attention to both verbal and nonverbal cues when you're communication with others. So, nodding means yes in some nationality like Indias and Latin Americans, but in other countries like Syria, Turkey, and Greece, nodding means yes. Indeed, when you communicate in a multicultural context, it is essential for you to learn, acknowledge, and understand the various communication and behavioral patterns present in other cultures and cultures locally and globally. So, in some countries like India and Latin America, nodding your head up and down means yes, while in countries like Syria, Turkey, and Greece, nodding means no. So, when we are communicating with people from different cultures, it is important to understand this difference in behavior. So, according to Beneath 2004, the developmental model of intercultural sensitivity or DMIS has six stages which are as follows: stage 1 denial, stage 2 defense, stage 3 minimization, stage 4 acceptance, stage 5 adaptation, and lastly stage 6 integration. So stage 1 denial. So the individual does not recognize cultural differences. Individual so the individual does not recognize cultural differences. So people in this stage don't recognize that there are cultural differences. Stage 2 defense. The individual starts to recognize cultural differences and it's intimidated by them. So people start to see cultural differences but feel intimidated by them. Stage 3 minimization. Although the individual sees cultural differences, he or she banks more on the universality of ideas than cultural differences. So people acknowledge cultural differences but focus more on the similarities between cultures. Stage 4 acceptance. The individual begins to appreciate important cultural differences in behaviors and eventually in values. So people begin to appreciate the importance of cultural differences in behaviors and values. Stage 5 adaptation. The individual becomes very open to worldviews when accepting new perspectives. So people become open to new perspectives and worldviews. And lastly, stage 6 integration. So the individual starts to go beyond his or her own culture and sees himself or herself the actions based on multifarious cultural viewpoints. People start to see things from multiple cultural viewpoints and go beyond their own culture. So there are words that are free from gender prejudice and unfair assumptions. These words must not influence an audience in any particular or unfair direction. In sexiest language, we have chairman, and for neutral, we have chair or chairperson, followed by salesman. In neutral, salesperson. We have congressman. In neutral, we have legislator. We have the spokesman, and we have spokesperson in neutral. And for the sexiest, we have foreman. In neutral, we have supervisor. In sexiest, we have stewardess. And for the neutral, we have flight attendant. In sexiest, we have waitress. Or in neutral, we have server. In sexiest, we have policeman. In neutral, we have police officer. We have fireman, firefighter, businessman, business executive, manpower, and workforce in neutral. So there are ways to avoid gender bias in language. First one is to substitute gender bias pronouns with articles determiner. So, when discussing gender bias in language, one effective strategy is to substitute gender bias pronouns with articles or determiners. This approach helps to promote inclusivity and avoid assumption about individuals based on their gender. And by using articles or determiners instead of gendered pronouns, we can create a more neutral and respectful tone in our writing. This shift allows for a greater focus on the content of our message rather than the gender of the individuals involved. Furthermore, substituting gender-biased pronouns with articles or determiners can help to challenge traditional notions of gender roles and stereotypes. It encourages us to consider the ways in which language shapes our perception of gender and promotes equality among all individuals. So, for example, in sexist, every employee is entitled his 13th month pay. For the non-sexist, we have every people is entitled to a 13th month pay. So, second is the use of plural pronouns instead of singular pronouns. Using plural pronouns instead of singular pronouns simple yet effective way to promote inclusivity and diverse in language. We use singular pronouns such as he or she. We are assuming the gender of the person we are referring to, which can be inclusionary to those who do not identify within the gender binary. By using plural pronouns like they or them, we create a more inclusivity environment where all individuals feel seen and respected. And additionally, using plural pronouns can help to break down traditional gender norms and stereotypes. Language has the power to shape our perception and beliefs about ourselves and others. By incorporating plural pronouns into our everyday speech, we can challenge societal expectations around gender and encourage acceptance of diverse identities. So, for example, for number two, we have the sexist. Each employee must submit his proposal next week. So, for the non-sexist, we have all employee must submit their proposal next week. So, you see the difference between the two. And for the third one, we have they use either or pronouns he, she, his, her, his, hers. So, however, we need to avoid putting men first all the time because he, his, her, or his, hers. It is important to avoid putting men first all the time. This practice not only reinforces gender stereotypes but also marginalize women in language and communication. By consistent prioritizing male pronouns, we perpetuate a societal norm that places men above women in importance and visibility. So, in academic writing, it is crucial to be mindful of language choices and strive for inclusivity. Using gender neutral language whenever possible can help create a more equitable and respectful discourse. Instead of defaulting male to pronouns, writers should alternate between the he and she or use a singular as a gender neutral option. So, by consciously avoiding the habit of always putting men first in language usage, we can contribute to breaking down ingrained biases and promoting equality in our communication. It is our responsibility as scholars and students to challenge traditional norms and advocate for the inclusive language practices that reflect the diversity of our society. So, example to this is for the sexist, we have every applicant must fill out his own application norm. For the non-sexist, we have every applicant must fill out his or her own application form.
So, 4. Use second person pronoun you or your over third person pronoun he or she. Be careful not to change the meaning of the statement. For example, the 6 yes. The sales manager should prepare his marketing proposal for our new product. For non-6 yes is you should prepare your marketing proposal for a new product. And lastly, use appropriate titles. For 6 yes, dear sir, unknown addresses. For the non 6 yes, attention HR manager.
Hello everyone, I am Sid Alfred Ablay and I am the next reporter. My topic is all about body language use in intercultural communication. Body language is a form of nonverbal communication in which visible body language communicates particular message either in place of or in conjunction with speech. In a multicultural context of communication, you should be culturally sensitive to the differences of this body language. You may fail to communicate effectively if rules and norms of communication are abandoned. Let's start with first gesture, which is shaking of hands. In the Philippines and America, the cultural gesture of shaking hands upon greeting is considered the norm when doing a person-to-person introduction. In fact, to refuse a handshake is considered a very rude gesture. In Saudi Arabia, you can shake a man's hand after meeting him, but you cannot shake a woman's hand at all in greeting. Next is okay sign. The okay hand gesture in America and England is quite popular and considered a general gesture that denotes an agreement of sentiment. However, this gesture in Brazil is the equivalent of using your middle finger. Likewise, this sign is taken as an insult in the most Latin American countries, Australia and France. Let's proceed to the next gesture, which is thumbs up. The thumbs up gesture can be an equivalent to the OK gesture, and it's widely used within America, England, and the Philippines. In the Americas, excluding the United States, thumbs up can be denoted as a sexual insult and correlates to the middle finger. Sitting with crossed legs. This is common in North America and European countries, but it is considered disrespectful in Asia and the Middle East, where a straight and balanced posture prevails as the norm. Last gesture is pointing using lips. In some culture, Filipino, Native American, Puerto Rican, and Latin American culture, people use their lips to point instead of a finger. In the West, people often kiss when they meet or when they say goodbye. In many Asian countries, it is considered to intimate of an action to be displayed in public. To sum up all the gestures, we have the following. Number 1, shaking of hands. Number 2, okay hand signal. Number 3, thumbs up. Number 4, setting with crossed legs. Number 5, point using the lips. So that's it for my report. Thank you for listening.
So, good day everyone. Now we're going to discuss the enhancing oral communication in the multicultural settings. So, first is learn foreign phrases. This means knowing a few phrases in your colleague's language can build a special relationship and show respect. Example of this is greeting a Japanese friend with konnichiwa means hello can make them feel more comfortable. And second is use simple words. So avoid complex language that might be confusing. Example, let's work together. And third is speak slowly and enunciate clearly. It helps ensure your message is understood. Example, pronouncing each word clearly and it at a moderate pace. Second is observe eye messages. Pay attention to nonverbal cues like eye contact or lack thereof. Example, if someone looks confused, pause and ask if they need clarification. encourage accurate feedback. Ask for feedback to ensure your message is understood. Example, can you tell me what you understood from this? So that is the example. Next is check frequently for comprehension. Regularly ensure everyone is on the same page. Example that is, does that make sense? Do you have any questions so far? So that is the example. Next is accept blame. Be willing to take responsibility for any miscommunication. Like, I apologize if that wasn't clear. Like, let me explain it again. Next is listen without interrupting. Let others express their thoughts fully. Example is nodding and waiting until they finish speaking before responding. And next is smile when appropriate. A smile can create a friendly atmosphere, and like smiling when greeting someone or during casual conversation. And last is follow up in writing. Written communication can confirm verbal messages, like sending an email summarizing a meeting's key point to ensure everyone has the same information. And that's all for the enhancing oral communication and multicultural settings. Now we're going to talk about developing written communication for multicultural audiences. First is consider local styles. Adapt your adapt your writing to the cultural norms and preferences of your audience. Second is observe titles and status. Use appropriate titles and respect hierarchical differences. Third is use short sentences and short paragraphs. It helps make your writing more readable and easier to understand. Fourth is avoid am- ambiguous expression, which is idioms, figurative glitches, slang, acronym, abbreviation, and jargon. Fifth is strive for clarity, like be direct to avoid misunderstanding. Example, instead of we might consider this option, you should write we will consider this option. And sixth is grammar. Ensure your writing is grammatically correct to convey professionalism and clarity. Seven is cite number carefully. And under of this is spill out. Eight is accommodate the reader and organization, tone, and style. Tailor your message to the reader's expectation and cultural context. That's all.
My topic is all about the developing
written communication. So this is a format on developing written communication and 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 how to write a proper format. So as you can see on a PowerPoint, there is a format of a letter. So there is a format of a letter. First is the date, May 31, 2020. Next is the name, Aljon A. Ardice. Next is the position, instructor. The next is the address, Norsu Pamplona Campus. The next of the address is the salutation. Dear Mr. Ardice, that was the salutation. So the body of the letter is of Mr. Ardice is, please excuse me for being absent today because I am sick. I promise to cope with the class as soon as I get back. So that was the body of his letter. The next is the conclusion. His conclusion is, I am hoping for a favorable response in this acre. And the lastly is the closing. His closing is sincerely. Then if you can provide your signature above if you write a letter. So the next is the phrasal verbs with a clear single words. Phrasal verb is a verb combined with an adverb or a preposition, or sometimes both, to give a new meaning. For example, go in for, win over, and see to. According to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, a phrasal verb is defined as a praise, such as of or look down on. So as you can see on the format in the PowerPoint, there is a phrasal verbs, the sample sentence, and the substitution. So for phrasal verb is add up. The sample sentence is Rick's added up the even numbers. The substitution is calculated. The next is the phrasal verb is call off. Sample sentence is the president ordered to call off the meeting. The substitution is cancel. Phrasal verb is carry on. The sample sentence is the lecturer will carry on the review despite of power interruption. The substitution is continue. Phrasal verb carry out. The sample sentence is Jem carried out the experiment in the laboratory. The substitution is executed. The phrasal verb is get across. The sample sentence is the students could not get their message across due to their limited vocabulary. The substitution is communicate. Phrasal verb is hold up. The sample sentence is the engineers cannot hold up their contracts else they will lose the projects. The substitution is delay. Phrasal verb is make up. The sample sentence is the teachers were not allowed to make up the documents. The substitution is fabricate. The next is the phrasal verb is point out. The sample sentence is the chemist point out the chemical exposure is harmful to people. The substitution is explain. Phrasal verb is torn down. The sample sentence is the architect torn down the project due to some work-related problems. The substitution is rejected. Phrasal verb is come up with. The sample sentence is the information technologies come up with a new program that makes the enrollment procedure easier and faster. The substitution is invented. The phrasal verb is look into. The sample sentence is the marketing officers look into different strategies that can satisfy their customers. The substitution is research. Phrasal verb is see to. The sample sentence is the media person would see to the privacy of the informant. The substitution is arrange. So that's all for my topic. Thank you.